I mean, are you at all concerned that his people are gonna try to come back?
Yeah, they for sure might do what they do, but I'm gonna get active, that's all it is. And it is what it is. It's on the floor, it'll be smoke forever. They broke, that's what it is. One of me is like 20 of them, I'm talking money-wise. So it's not to worry about.
Said, take that off of social media. I said, let this family mourn in peace. And I said, what's going on? And he said, I think they're trying to set me. I'm sorry. He said, I think they're trying to set me up.
People who gunned down a San Antonio rapper in Houston last week. Family has identified the victim as Darrell Gentry, better known as BTB Savage.
Just hours before his own death.
I was kind of mad at the BTB Savage interview.
We could talk about that.
That was kind of crazy.
People feel,
you know what it felt like? No disrespect to you, but it felt like you added fuel to the fire. That's what people feel like.
For many people, Darrell Gentry, better known as rapper BTB Savage, made a huge mistake when he went online to diss someone he had allegedly offed. For the people who feel that way, the rapper going on Vlad TV to talk in detail about how the shooting went down, seemingly boasting about the situation, was the final nail in the coffin.
I walked by, he grabbed my foot. He's like, come on, bro, take me with you, bro. I can make it to the hospital. I just need to go to the hospital. Oh, nigga, fuck you. Like, I ain't taking no hospital, boy.
Apparently, that was just too far for some people, possibly leading to the rapper's death. Things took a dark turn just 4 days after the interview when BTB Savage was shot and offed in what many believe was retaliation. Let's break down how everything unfolded. It all started when another rapper reached out to BTB Savage, asking for a feature on a track. They had been talking before and had worked together previously, so this request wasn't completely out of the blue. On Friday, February 3rd, the rapper hit up BTB Savage, saying he wanted to come over with money for the feature and record the song at BTB's place. It was late, somewhere between 10 and 11 p.m., and BTB Savage was a little hesitant about handling business that late at night, especially at his own home.
They was gonna pay for the feature or whatever. We gonna do the song, and then they gotta do the promo with it. I was gonna do it at first. I wasn't gonna do it at first, because it was so late. It was like damn near 10, 11.
He was with his girlfriend at the time and asked her what she thought about it. He was considering waiting until the next day to hit up a proper studio to handle everything, but ultimately he decided to go through with it that night. The idea of getting paid right away was too tempting, so he figured they could knock out the song, collect the money, and call it a night. Unfortunately, that's not how things went down.
When I was talking to the girl I was with at the time, I'm like, I do this, wait till tomorrow, and just meet him at a real studio. Like, and then, but I ain't gonna lie, I just wanted the bread. I'm like, all right, bet, they gonna pull up. I'm gonna grab the bread real quick, dip out.
Looking back, there were red flags all over the place, but at the time, BTB Savage didn't catch on. First, the other rapper kept coming up with solutions to every issue BTB Savage brought up. When BTB Savage mentioned he didn't have the right studio equipment at his place, the other rapper said, no worries, we'll bring our own equipment. That seemed to settle things, and BTB Savage agreed to move forward. When the rapper and his crew showed up at BTB's spot, he noticed there were a few people with him. It didn't seem too weird at the time, since it's normal for an artist to roll with a crew or security, so BTB Savage let them in thinking they were just there to record the song. But once they were inside, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The crew was looking around the house in a way that made him uncomfortable.
Looking around. That's why I figured it was kind of weird they looking around when they first walked in my crib, like going like that. But I just kind of didn't pay it no mind. I was just more of like, come on, let's get this out the way.
Almost like they were scoping the place out. Still, he brushed it off. The next red flag came when they started setting up the studio equipment. Everything seemed normal at first. They took out a studio box and started getting things ready. But then they acted like they'd forgotten some of the equipment. One of the guys, who was the rapper's uncle, told the artist to go back to the car to grab the missing gear. That's when BTB Savage's instincts kicked in. Something didn't add up. He wondered, if the rapper's here to do a feature, why wouldn't his uncle go get the equipment instead of the artist going himself? It didn't make sense, and BTB Savage's gut told him something was wrong.
It's a studio box, but like it got the mixer in it. It ain't have. So then a dude, I guess the older dude, I ain't really know him like that. I don't know them like that. I didn't know him at all. The dude I'm talking to for the feature or whatever, he talking to his uncle, like he like, oh, I ain't got this, I ain't got that. So his uncle said, go to the car and get more. So I'm thinking like, damn, why would you, it should be the opposite way. You tell him to go. Cause we like the ones we locked in. We talked or whatever about the song.
Not wanting to take any chances, BTB Savage decided to lock the door after the artist went back outside, leaving him inside with just the uncle and his girlfriend. Now, the rapper and the rest of his crew were outside, and BTB Savage was inside with just the uncle, feeling more uneasy by the minute.
Do the song, and you gonna leave the random dude in my crib type shit. So when he walked out, I was kind of nervous, so I locked the door. Both locked.
It was at this moment that the uncle decided it was time to put his plan into action. He tried to ease BTB's growing suspicions by pulling out the cash they had brought for the feature, hoping to convince him everything was legit. It worked, at least for the moment. They started chatting casually, and the uncle began asking BTB Savage about his jewelry, acting like it was no big deal. Thinking the situation was under control, BTB Savage started showing off his chains. But as soon as he looked down at them, that's when the uncle made his move. He pulled out a gun and announced the robbery, putting BTB Savage right where they wanted him.
And I go down to look at my piece while he talking. I'm like, this one? I'm like, yeah, this one. While I'm looking down like that, that's when he upped the pole on me. And he like, oh yeah, run that.
With the gun now pointing at him and his girlfriend, BTB Savage was faced with a choice: comply or risk both of their lives. Realizing how bad the situation was, he played along, doing as he was told. The uncle moved in to take BTB Savage's chain, but this is where things took a turn. Just as the uncle reached for the chain, BTB Savage decided to fight back. He grabbed the uncle's arm, managing to lock it up, and tackled him to the ground. In the struggle, the gun fell from the uncle's hand, giving BTB Savage a chance to flip the script and take control of the situation.
So when he come over, he reached for the chain and he took the gun off me. Right there, I hit him with like both of his arms under my armpit, like this.
Pinned to the floor, the uncle was still fighting, but BTB Savage was not letting go. As he held the uncle down, he signaled to his girlfriend to grab the gun and shoot. She was understandably scared, but she jumped into action, picking up the gun and firing 2 shots into the uncle's back. But instead of going down, the uncle seemed to be in survival mode. He reached for another firearm he had hidden and aimed it straight at BTB Savage's girlfriend. With the beam of the gun's laser sight on her, she tried to escape, but the uncle fired 2 shots, missing her by inches. At this point, BTB Savage was doing everything he could to defend both himself and his girlfriend. But then, in the middle of all the chaos, he made a startling realization. His 4-year-old son was asleep in the other room. Knowing his son was in danger, BTB Savage desperately tried to convince the uncle to give up and leave, but the uncle wasn't backing down.
So I'm like, bro, what the you doing? My kid in that back room, fam, you tripping. I'm like, go ahead and get up out of here, bro. You already fired like 5 shots. It's hot. The police on the way. Whatever you're trying to do gonna go bad for you. You're gonna go straight to prison.
He shouted to his crew outside, telling them to fire through the locked door. They responded by opening fire, but luckily no one was hit. In a panic, BTB Savage screamed at his girlfriend to finish off the uncle, but with bullets flying through the door, she was too terrified to get close. Instead, she fired 2 shots back at the door, which scared the attackers outside enough to make them retreat. Now it was just BTB Savage, his girlfriend, and the uncle left inside. BTB Savage, still wrestling with the uncle, told his girlfriend again to finish the job. This time when she fired, the bullet accidentally hit BTB Savage in the elbow, shattering his arm. In intense pain but determined to protect his family, BTB Savage shifted his body to give her a clear shot. Finally, she took aim and fired one last time, this time hitting the uncle. Even though the uncle was severely wounded, he wasn't giving up. Determined to finish what he started, he began crawling towards the gun on the floor, desperate to carry out his plan. BTB Savage watched in horror as the uncle's hand reached for the trigger. In a quick and decisive move, BTB Savage grabbed the weapon and emptied the rest of the bullets, leaving the uncle helpless. Realizing his options had run out, the uncle began to apologize, begging for his life.
So when all the bullets empty, he like, oh, bro, my bad. Come on, bro, I got kids too, bro. Let me make it home and don't let me die or whatever like that. I'm like, bro, you good? I'm like, you good? I'm like, give a about you.
But BTB Savage, focused on protecting his family, wasn't in the mood for forgiveness. Instead of continuing the confrontation, he left the uncle on the floor, grabbing his girlfriend and son to get them out of the house. He drove them to the hospital to treat his shattered arm. While the uncle eventually died from his injuries, BTB managed to survive the terrifying ordeal. He was cleared of any criminal charges since the authorities deemed it a case of self-defense. He had lived through one of the most dangerous nights of his life and emerged on the other side. But instead of laying low after the traumatic event, BTB Savage made a bold decision that would place him in even greater danger. In a Vlad TV interview, BTB Savage did not hold back when talking about the events of that fateful night. He recounted in chilling detail the last moments of the uncle's life and how he left him to die. When asked what he would do if the rest of the attackers came back for revenge, BTB Savage confidently stated that he would take them out too if necessary and then mocked them by calling them broke.
Are you at all concerned that his people are gonna try to come back?
They might do what they do, but I'm gonna get active. That's all it is. And it is what it is. It's on the floor. It'll be smoke forever. That's what it is. One of me is like 20 of them. You're talking money-wise. So it's not shit I don't worry about.
He seemed to believe that this ordeal could actually help push his career forward, using the incident as a promotional tool to gain more exposure. Rather than letting the situation fade, BTB Savage doubled down. He took to social media, posting pictures of himself standing in the exact spot where the shooting took place. In the photos, he was smiling, seemingly unfazed by what had happened, with the caption, "Too much motion." He even released a song with the same title. This taunting behavior drew concern from his mother, who tried to warn him to stop antagonizing the family of the slain assailant.
Take that off of social media. I said, let this family mourn in peace.
She knew that by mocking the people involved, he was putting himself and their family in danger. But BTB Savage didn't listen. He kept pushing the envelope, ignoring the repeated threats from the family, who promised that they would make his mother cry in revenge for what had happened. On March 26, 2023, a man named Montrell Burley, age 40, rented a black Subaru Outback from Avis in San Antonio, Texas. At that time, no one knew about the plan he was brewing, a plot that would end with BTB Savage's death. Over the next few days, things would slowly come to light as the world learned of the tragic outcome. On March 29th, just a day before BTB Savage was offed, the Subaru was picked up on a license plate reader as it traveled eastbound along I-10 in Fayette County. Later that evening, around 7 p.m., the investigators believed Burley swapped out the plates on the Subaru with plates from a stolen Kia, which were scanned on the car 10 minutes after the shooting took place. Once the act was done, the Florida license plates were put back on the car and were captured again about an hour and 40 minutes later, as the Subaru traveled westbound on I-10. For hours later, the night before, and for about the same amount of time during the day leading up to the shooting, Burley's cell phone data placed him near BTB Savage's apartment in the 2000 block of West Creek Lane, showing that he had been watching and waiting. On March 30th, the day BTB Savage would meet his fate, Darrell Gentry, BTB Savage, called his mother. He sounded frightened, telling her that people were trying to set him up. From the fear in his voice, it seemed like he was already in the presence of the very people he believed were plotting against him.
When Ward says her son called her predicting his at a restaurant with people she believes were part of the plot to kill him.
He said, Mom, I'm gonna talk to you regular, but read your text messages.
To the bathroom, he told his mom this.
And I said, what's going on? And he said, I think they're trying to set me. I'm sorry. He said, I think they're trying to set me up.
Unfortunately, BTB Savage's fears were justified. His suspicion turned out to be tragically accurate. Surveillance footage captured the black Subaru rented by Montrell Burley trailing BTB Savage's white SUV just moments before the fatal attack.
This video surveillance from a neighbor. You can see a white Mercedes followed by a black Subaru SUV heading northbound on mid-lane in broad daylight.
It was around 6 p.m., a little over an hour after BTB Savage had posted that controversial picture of him standing at the crime scene when everything came crashing down. His SUV was suddenly sprayed with bullets, ending his life in a barrage of gunfire. At the time, BTB Savage was on his way to the airport, planning to fly out to see his mother. He probably had no idea that it would be his last drive. Not only did his Kayers take his life, but they went a step further. They burglarized his home afterward. It was a cold, heartless act, as if taking his life wasn't enough. They wanted more. Law enforcement used surveillance footage and cell phone data to build their case, and the day after the shooting on March 31st, they obtained a search warrant for the black SUV. The New Braunfels police stopped Burley and his fiancée that morning as they were leaving their home in the same vehicle. During the search, police found shell casings that matched those at the crime scene. The investigation also led to the seizure of both Burley's and his fiance's phones. Burley was arrested, but only for possession of a controlled substance at first. When police questioned him about the EMDR, Burley immediately shut down the interview and asked for a lawyer. At the time, the authorities only had reasonable suspicion, not enough probable cause, so they couldn't hold him beyond 72 hours without filing formal charges. A week later, after reviewing the cell phone data that connected Burley to the crime, a warrant was issued for his arrest. Knowing the police were closing in, Burley turned himself in involuntarily. Prosecutors are now working to have his bail denied, especially given his status as a convicted felon. The authorities are also on the hunt for a second suspect who was in the vehicle when BTB Savage was gunned down. What really sent fans into a frenzy was how fast news of BTB Savage's death hit social media. Before his identity was even publicly confirmed as the homicide victim, a rapper by the name of BJ went on Instagram posting and then quickly deleting a video where he appeared to mock BTB Savage's death. On top of that, BJ's attire in the video matched descriptions of one of the suspects in the case, leaving many fans to wonder if he had a hand in the EMDR. As more information came to light, the narrative of BTB Savage's killing being a retaliation started to make more sense. Documents revealed that the hit may have been in retaliation for the death of Omar Richardson, the man BTB Savage had shot and offed in self-defense during the robbery at his apartment. Burley, as it turns out, was a documented gang member and a close friend of Richardson. After BTB Savage's EMDR, Burley even released a music video titled Pain is Love in tribute to his fallen friend Omar Richardson. To add even more fuel to the fire, Omar Richardson's alleged family members were seen celebrating and laughing about BTB Savage's death on social media. BTB Savage, whose real name was Darrell Gentry, was a 26-year-old rapper who often portrayed himself as living a scammer lifestyle, but in reality his life was far from what he rapped about. Originally from Cleveland, Ohio, Darrell moved to San Antonio, Texas at the age of 6 when his family relocated so one of his brothers could receive cancer treatment. Unlike the image he later tried to cultivate in the rap game, Darrell was an honor roll student with a 4.0 GPA. After graduating, he decided to follow in his mother's footsteps by joining the army. His background wasn't in the streets, but he quickly realized that in order to make it in the music industry, especially in rap, he needed to create a certain image, one that would resonate with the culture he was trying to break into. Darrell never claimed to be a K-er, but his life took a dark turn when he became the target of a robbery. In that moment, he fought back to protect himself and his family. His fiancée stepped in and shot the man, allowing them to escape. The incident could have ended there, with Darrell walking away from a near-death experience, but that's not what happened. Darrell's biggest mistake came when he started listening to the wrong people who didn't really care about him or his future. Despite his family's warnings, he chose to speak out about the robbery, detailing the incident in a Vlad TV interview and sharing images of himself standing at the crime scene. His family urged him to stay quiet, knowing that the family of the man who died in the attempted robbery was grieving. But Darrell was focused on what he thought was the opportunity of a lifetime. He saw the interview as his chance to blow up in the rap game, and unfortunately, can't change his decision.